I didn't hit anyone because I wanted to. That's the part I keep coming back to, like it's a fucking shield. I hit him because she was shaking, because her voice dropped when she said his name, because she leaned into my chest like it was the only safe place left in the room. I hit him because she whispered, "Please don't let him talk to me." And I believed her. That's the thing nobody wants to hear when they look at me now. How reasonable it felt. How clean the logic was. She didn't ask me to hurt anyone. She never said attack. She just let me see what she needed me to see. Fear, vulnerability, gratitude. The way she looked at me afterward, like I'd just done something noble, instead of crossing a line that would never uncross. Every time I stepped in, she rewarded me. With affection, with praise, with that soft, dangerous sentence, "I feel safe when you're around." So I stayed around, I hovered, I watched, I intervened. What I didn't realize, what makes my stomach drop even now, is that by the time anyone asked what happened, the story was already finished. I was the aggressor. I was the unstable one. I was the man who couldn't control himself. And she just looked surprised. I didn't come into her life like some caveman looking for a fight. I came in quietly, supportively. I listened more than I talked. I remembered details. I asked questions. I told myself I was different from the men she kept describing. Controlling, dismissive, unpredictable. She liked that about me, or at least she said she did. She had a way of telling stories that never landed all the way. She'd start explaining something, an ex, a coworker, a friend, and then trail off like the words themselves were unsafe. That pause did more work than any accusation ever could. It made me lean forward, made me fill in the blanks for her. He scares me sometimes. I don't know how to say no to people. I hate conflict. Every sentence was soft, fragile, wrapped in uncertainty. And every time, I felt something in my chest tighten. Not anger at first, but responsibility. Like if I didn't pay attention, something bad would happen, and it would be my fault for not seeing it coming. The first time I protected her, it was nothing dramatic. A guy at a bar wouldn't leave her alone. She didn't ask me to intervene. She just looked at me, eyes wide, hands tucked into her sleeves like she was cold, even though it was warm as hell in there. So, I stepped between them. Calm voice, firm boundary. The guy backed off. She smiled at me like I'd just passed a test. Later that night, she kissed me harder than she ever had before. Her hands were urgent, almost frantic, like she was rewarding a dog for good behavior. I remember thinking, this is what trust feels like. That should have scared me. How fast it clicked into place. How good it felt to be needed in that specific way. After that, the situations kept happening. Coincidences, she called them. Bad timing. Men who didn't respect boundaries. Friends who didn't understand her trauma. There was always just enough ambiguity that I couldn't prove anything, but enough discomfort that stepping in felt justified. And she always framed it like we were a team. I don't know what I'd do without you. You're the only one who notices. I feel like you see the real danger. Danger. That word did a lot of heavy lifting. I started watching rooms the moment we walked into them, tracking tone changes, eye contact, body language. I told myself I was being attentive, protective, a good partner. What I didn't notice was how she never corrected me when I misread something. Never said it's okay. Never said, you don't need to handle this. She let my instincts run ahead of the facts. Let me escalate. Let me believe the threat was bigger than it was. And every time I crossed a line, she was there afterward, soothing, affectionate, grateful, like she was patching up a ruin she'd just guided me into. By the time people started looking at me differently, I was already committed to the role. Protector. Enforcer. Problem. The shift didn't happen all at once. It never does. It happened in sideways glances, in conversations that stopped when I walked into the room, in the way people started asking her if she was okay when I wasn't around. She'd tell me about it later, curled against me, voice low and intimate. They think you're intense. They don't understand what we've been dealing with. I defend you, you know. That last part mattered to me more than I want to admit. The idea that she was standing up for me somewhere else, that she was protecting me the way I protected her. It kept me hooked. Balanced the scales just enough that I ignored the warning signs. The real break came at a party. A mutual friend. Alcohol everywhere. Noise. Chaos. The perfect environment for misunderstanding to metastasize. She got quiet halfway through the night. Withdrawn. Kept checking her phone. When I asked what was wrong, she hesitated, just long enough for dread to crawl up my spine. He's here. I didn't even ask who. My body already knew. My jaw clenched. My pulse jumped. She didn't need to say anything else. She just stayed close to me, fingers digging into my arm like anchors. I watched him talk to her from across the room, smiling, relaxed. Too relaxed, I thought. When he walked over, she stiffened. I swear to God she did.
He said her name. That was it. Just her name.
I stepped forward and told him to back the fuck off. The room froze. He looked confused. She looked small. Everyone else looked uncomfortable. He laughed. Actually laughed, and said I was overreacting. That's when I shoved him. It wasn't a calculated move. It was instinct, adrenaline, righteousness, the kind of certainty that feels like truth in the moment. He stumbled, knocked into a table. Drinks spilled. Someone yelled. Someone grabbed my arm. She didn't say anything. She just stared at me like she didn't recognize who I was anymore. Later, much later, she told people she tried to calm me down, that she was scared of how angry I got, that she didn't know how to stop me once I started. I wasn't in the room when she said those things. I only heard about them after the story had already hardened. By the time I realized something was wrong, I was already isolated. Friends stopped calling. Invitations dried up. Conversations turned careful, clipped, like everyone was afraid of triggering something in me. She stayed, though, at least physically. Emotionally, she was already gone. Distant, wary, brittle. And somehow, I was the one apologizing. For my temper. For my intensity. For caring too much. She let me take that weight. Let me believe the damage was coming from inside me, not from the shape she'd been molding around my instincts all along. The truth didn't come out in a dramatic reveal. No confrontation. No confession. Just a slow, humiliating unraveling. Someone sent me screenshots. Messages she'd been sending while telling me she felt unsafe. Flirtatious, provocative. Carefully framed to look harmless, unless you knew the context. Unless you'd been the one reacting to the fear she fed you afterward. There were voice notes too. Her laughing. Mocking how easy it was to get me riled up. How she didn't even have to ask. He just wants to be the hero, she said. I barely have to do anything. I listened to them alone. Sitting on the edge of my bed. Hands shaking so hard I had to pause the playback just to breathe. Every moment rewrote itself in real time. Every look, every pause, every time she leaned into me when she wanted someone else to look like the villain. When people finally confronted her, she cried. Of course she did. Said she never meant for things to go that far. That she was working through trauma. That she didn't realize how much influence she had. And people believed her, at least enough to soften the fallout. Me? I didn't get that luxury. Even with the proof, the damage stuck. The reputation. The label. The memory of my hands on someone else's chest. The sound of a room turning against me in a single breath. She was exposed, but I was marked. That's the part nobody prepares you for. That being manipulated doesn't absolve you of what you did while under its influence. I still shoved someone. I still scared people. I still became exactly what the story needed me to be. Sometimes I wonder if that was the point all along. Not just to use my protection instinct, but to turn it inside out. to make sure that even when the truth came out, I couldn't walk away clean. I thought I was protecting her. What I was really doing was rehearsing a role she'd already written for me. And the worst part? I understand why I played it. And that scares the shit out of me.